Yeah.
And we watched the video that you put together explaining how you made the record in your parents' barn. And what was the decision to not go into a proper studio and do it the traditional way, to doing it kind of this more raw in a, I guess, a familiar space?
A lot of it is pragmatic. You know, I mean, I'd just be wasting money if I was. I guess I don't sort of write songs, demo them, and then go about working out how to arrange them and who I'm going to record them with. You know, what musicians I want to work with or producer. Because I produce myself, it's a very piecemeal process where a song will be produced and written and arranged as it goes along. You know, I find a new sample, it triggers another idea. Next thing you know, I might start writing a lyric and recording the final vocal of that lyric right into my computer. You know, just singing straight into the laptop microphone on the spot. And sometimes I realise that it's not high quality enough or whatever, so I need to re-record it. But sometimes, you know, I've ended up using instantly recorded demo vocals as I've written the lyrics. They've ended up being the final things on track.
Really?
So it just means you can have a fluidity and you're not on the clock. You know, you don't have a lot of other people you're paying somebody for studio time. And because usually I think the best things that come about when I have time to make music, they come about because I have that time to just tinker. If I was doing that, you know, at a big studio, I'd be racking up massive.
Exactly. Yeah, it is nice that you don't have to, you know, be paid by the minute.
Yeah.
All right, I want to get into a couple of questions that you're probably sick of getting asked. Gotye. Where does the name Gotye come from?
All right, let me try to corral this into a minute-long response. I was born to a couple of Belgian parents from the Flemish-speaking side of Belgium, and so my birth name was Wouter. But because most English speakers find it very difficult to get their lips around, in English I took on kind of Walter when I was young, and hence Wally. But anyway, Wouter in Flemish translates into French as Gotye. And when I was young, my mum, being a French speaker as well as a Flemish speaker, sometimes used to call me Gotye, like a bit of a pet name or like a, you know, extra nickname. So when I was sort of 20, 21, and I just sort of put it, you know, I was putting my first record together, and I was kind of going, well, I want a name that doesn't have an instant sort of resonance with a certain word in the world, or give people some kind of reference to what kind of music it is, or, you know, anything really obvious. I recalled that name, and I called her up and said, what was that nickname you had for me again? She said, well, it was Gotye, and how's it spelt? It would be spelt as in Jean-Paul Gaultier's surname. And then I just decided I didn't kind of want that, I don't know, that massive fashion world resonance of the spelling of his name, and I just came up with my own version of it. So.
Oh, so you came up with the spelling of...
Gotye, yeah, it's just me going, how can I kind of have Gotye as a name but not spell it as in his surname? So it's pronounced as in his surname, but, you know, I just kind of came up with my own spelling. Interesting.
Good story on that. Now, is that... your mom was the only one that called you Gotye? That wasn't like a childhood nickname with friends or anything?
No, and it was very infrequent too.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool. And then... somebody that I used to know, the giant single, it's been #1 in 6 countries, soon to be probably #1 here in the States. How did you hook up with Kimbra to do the duet in that song?
I'm surprised I didn't think of it earlier, because we'd met a few years earlier, but we hadn't sort of been close friends. We hadn't stayed in touch very closely. But she was working at the same studio with a guy called Francois Titaz on her record Vows, while I was mixing my record with Francois. And so we kind of reconnected and bumped into each other, and she showed me a few tracks, you know, coming up on her record, and I was excited by that. She heard a bit of the stuff I was working on. And I had tried other vocalists, like, to try and kind of get this female part right, and I was actually at a point at one stage where I thought, that's it, I was going to have to let the song go. I just wasn't finding the right person to really make that part speak and come alive, and then Francois suggested you should really call Kimbra, she could be really great for this part. And so, yeah, you know, I sent her the track and she loved it. And it turned out, I mean, she got in touch years before, because she spent a lot of time with my second record, and she was like, when she was 18, 19, that was like a big record for her, and she was listening to it a lot. So she'd kind of contacted me as a fan. And now it's kind of like, you know, we're peers and hanging out together and singing this song together a lot. It's kind of cool. And
well, look,
I'm
good.
seeing, you know, her stuff is just going crazy too.
Yeah, no, it seems like in the States both your paths are kind of converging and meshing well right now.
Yeah.
And then last night, when she wasn't there, the crowd made for a great replacement.
Well, it's nice when you got a song that everybody's been listening to, because they know the words.
Yeah. Was there ever a moment where you're like, oh my God, what if they don't sing? What if they don't sing?
Some crowds have been more reluctant than others.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I mean, a friend put this well last night. They kind of said, you know, it's really interesting watching the crowd when you ask them to do that, because they start quite tentatively, and you can kind of see the girls, they're kind of like, you know, kind of looking at each other, and then they kind of realise everybody's kind of getting into it. By the end of that verse, you know, we're like, it's like this huge cathartic moment. They're just like belting it out as one, which is pretty exciting to hear.
It was cool to be there and watch it. I mean, it's intense. Like, you know, you see sing-alongs all the time at concerts, but that was impressive.
Oh, cool.
Very impressive. what inspired? Who is the somebody behind Somebody That I Used to Know?
There are a few somebodies. Doesn't everybody have a few somebodies?
I think that's why it's such a popular song, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, I've seen a few people in the press kind of say, oh, he denies that it's about one person, but in this interview, he clearly made reference to this teenage girl he used to see, so it must be about her. I'm like, oh, well, there's one journalist paraphrase of something I said one day after probably talking to people for 10 hours, and they, people are obviously very, very keen to know, but I mean, the truth is, as with a lot of my stuff, it started with sounds first, and those sounds, I think, put me in this reflective headspace. At the time, just kind of reflecting on old relationships, and I feel like I was cherry picking different strong melancholy emotions, and it's like certain lyrics in the tune, certain lines really specifically remind me of certain people and times and feelings I remember having. But then, it's kind of combining those and sometimes adding elements of fiction and creating, a character from there. So. But
the line, you took your records and changed your number, was that someone in particular?
That's fiction. The records thing is fiction.
Okay.
No ex-girlfriend ever, high fidelity star
came
around to sent friends to collect their records. But other lines, they ring more true for me. They come from an actual memory. And sometimes I tap into that when I'm singing it live.
Yeah. Have you had any exes hit you up on Facebook and, is that about me? I swear that's about me.
I did have, I think, one ex-girlfriend did kind of contact me going, I think it was after this one article had come out where a journalist had either, I think, paraphrased or interpreted something I'd said to go, it must be about this girl. And she's like, oh, hearing a bit of gossip, is that song about me? Because I've got these friends saying, it is about you, it is about you. It's so funny, it just becomes gossip sort of stuff.
Well, and the mystery's great. It's like Carly Simon's You're So Vain.
Right.
That song, no one ever knew for years, decades, who that was about. And the video for that song, what was the inspiration? Who put that all together? It must have been incredibly laborious, the kind of frame-by-frame painting of the bodies and everything.
It did take a while. The second day stretched out to 26 hours straight. We started at 7 a.m. in the morning and we were there 9 a.m. the next morning. It was all Natasha Pincus's idea. She was the director. I just knew I wanted to make a video with her, so unlike in some situations where you get, sort of tons of directors pitching different ideas to you and you're kind of trying to work out who's got an interesting vibe or who's really getting the take on a song. I just knew I wanted to make a clip with her and I was really ready to hear the ideas she had, so she came back with this amazing concept. She already had the amazing body painting artist Emma Hack sort of provisionally involved. So she presented me this whole great treatment, saying, well, here's the concept. Emma Hack would do this body painting. She asked me if I kind of had a sort of hunch on what artwork I wanted to use, so I kind of had a little bit of input in terms of going, I'd love to use this piece of my dad's, which is from inside the record. So
that's your dad's work?
Yeah, so it's kind of a cross-section of a piece he did, and then there's a different cross-section where there's some blue colours, which are sort of up here in the original piece, which is then manipulated, and that's kind of, if you look closely in the video, it's like more like this or something like that in the video.
It's like a very geometrically configured.
Yeah, the original piece is like this kind of five-sided, sort of colour play, multi-angle kind of topographic, fractal type of thing, I guess. So I kind of suggested that piece and did a bit of photoshopping and sort of tried to work out, how it would look, and the rest was just her planning and 2 very long days in the studio.
And how do you wrap your head around 48 million views on YouTube? I mean, I think the video came to